Hello and welcome to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast for the catalogue shopping generation. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, and joining me is my co-host, Stu Joslin. Stu, how are you?
Hi mate, all the better for seeing you in person at the weekend. I've got my little Argos pen ready to go to fill out some catalogue order numbers and get myself some Christmas goodies.
Yes, it's going to be a good episode today because we are talking for the second time in the history of this podcast about the Argos catalogue. And we will be picking some of our favourite items from different catalogues, but we'll get to that later. But before we get to that, today's episode is sponsored by One-to-One Mobile. I realise most of you listening won't have a mobile phone yet, but for any of you who do, make the most of this brilliant offer. If you sign up with One-to-One in any car phone warehouse store, quote the code ALLRIGHT90s at the payment stage and you'll receive 10 free SMS messages per week for the first month of your contract, so you can keep in touch with your friends and family on the go, courtesy of this episode's sponsor, One-to-One. Welcome to your world.
Fantastic, thanks to those guys for that. A few points though. First of all, Alex, quiz question. Whose shirt did One-to-One sponsor in the late 90s? Premier League?
Everton.
Correct. Number two, who would you most like to have a one-to-one with?
I would like to have a one-to-one with Wes Borland, the guitarist of Limp Bizkit. What about you?
Well, Mark Bosnich, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
And the third point is, could we not have tied something up with Argos instead of Carphone Warehouse for this?
I think maybe we did that for the first Argos episode, and they didn't. Basically, I don't think it's going to happen again. So, it was, it's not going to work out. I'm afraid.
I hope the offer wasn't like abused by our listeners or anything, like people sort of, passing the code around and buying multiple items. And
I think it was
going against the whole spirit of the thing,
Yeah, no, I think it was more the fact that literally no one took them up on the offer, so they thought, what's the point?
So we tricked Carphone Warehouse into doing it instead.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, nice one, Jeff. Then nice one, Jeff.
Time now for the bulletin board. Stu, what have you got over there?
Yes, a couple of things of note this time, and I'm afraid, Alex, hate to kick off the episode like this, but we start with a complaint.
Oh God, no! Who is it this time?
And it's not any complaint; it's a complaint from legend of the pod, my dad, Glyn Joslin, which is obviously something that we take very seriously. Yeah. This was sent in after our chat about the January 1991 Top 40 that we did with Diamond Joe Barter a couple of episodes ago.
Okay.
He begins, "Hi Alex and Stu, great pod this week, but I must take you to task over a few things. First of all, Stu, alarmingly, bands like Bon Jovi, Def Leppard and Iron Maiden were still making the top 40 at this point." He's quoting us there. Disgraceful thing to say, because, let's be honest here, most of the music throughout the 90s was very poor. You also failed to mention that Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter by Iron Maiden had been number one for the 2 weeks before this, coming straight in at number one and knocking Sir Cliff off the top spot. Finally, leave Diamond Dave alone. Yours as ever, pod legend, Glyn. Well, first of all, Dad, one of the things I have to say in my right to reply is that you seem to be taking me to task about saying that it was alarming that bands like Def Leppard and Iron Maiden were in the top 40, but that wasn't me. That was very much Alex and Joe. I stood up and defended that style of music. I think you'll find if you listen back to the podcast, so I just wanted to set things right there and put the blame squarely at Alex's door rather than my own. Alex, anything to say on this?
Well, I was expecting the backlash, to be honest, from Glyn. As soon as I spoke those words in the episode itself, I thought this is going to come back to bite me in the form of Glyn Joslin. And all I can say is I stand by my comments. I know it's a big thing for you, Glyn, but the hair metal scene was not my scene, and I'm glad it was wiped out by the rise of new metal, and I always will be. So, I make no apologies for that.
Well, I think we're going to have to get Glyn back on one of these days so that we can actually play out this debate in real time and see what happens and who wins, because I think this one is set to run and run. This is going to be very interesting indeed.
Speaking of dads, I have a message here from Dad of the Pod, who has messaged in with some more updates on the behind-the-scenes goings on over here at It'll Be Alright in the 90s HQ.
Oh, let's have it.
And he says, I was in the saloon bar of the Two Pigs signing an autograph the other day when a young chap came over and introduced himself as Si and said he was your new studio engineer. I thought he didn't look old enough to be in a pub, let alone in charge of an important historical podcast like yours. Anyway, we got chatting. Do you know that he calls you two old guys? He thinks it's sweet that you recorded your podcast onto mini-disc before he updated the studio with all the present bells and whistles. He said Jeff has instructed him to insert some subliminal advertising into the pods in order to create new revenue streams. Apparently, if you listen carefully, about 22 minutes into this latest pod, you can just make out someone whispering, "Say goodbye to grubby garb when you use Sun Ultra Laundry Detergent." Incidentally, the person who asked me for an autograph had actually mistaken me for Kathy Burke. He was terribly apologetic about it and said his glasses had steamed up when he came into the pub. So thank you very much for that, down to the pod. I wondered who that guy was, wandering around the studio in the background.
Yeah, he's been around for a while, hasn't he? But nobody's actually thought to ask him who he is or what his business is.
Yeah,
so nice to get some closure on that. Also interesting that Dad of the Pod is signing autographs in the Two Pigs when, to my knowledge, it closed down in 2016. So,
Yes. I think it must have... It's either gone underground and become like a speakeasy. So from the outside, it looks like a residential property now, but it might be the sort of affair where you roll up one trouser leg, do a special handshake, knock on the door 5.5 times, and you get let in, and then downstairs it's where all the action is.
Well, that would certainly explain the reason why Glyn and I no longer seem to be invited to the previous landlord's soirees that he sometimes puts on for the old regulars. We seem to have dropped off the sort of mailing list for those little parties in the last couple of years, and we weren't entirely sure why, but maybe you just hit the nail on the head. More correspondence now, this time in an audio format from former guest, regular contributor and all-round friend of the podcast, Teresa Stenson, who has some of her diary entries about the movies of 1995 to share with us. So it's over to you, Teresa.
Hello, Alex and Stu, it's Teresa here from my Teenage Diaries, and I just wanted to send you a note about your last episode where you spoke about the films of 1995, and Alex chose Now and Then as one of his favourite films from that year, and I had like a inkling that I'd been to the cinema to see that film back then, so I thought I'd better check my Teenage Diaries, because if I had been, I definitely would have written about it, and unfortunately I didn't find any mention of it, so I think probably what happened is I got it mixed up with The Craft, which I know is a very different film, but it came out a year later, and it also is about 4 female friends, and I just think that because I had 3 main best friends around this time, that anything with 4 characters in like that would have was like a big deal, and so I think I was just getting the vibes mixed up there with those films, so yeah. But while I had the diaries out, I thought I'd have a look to see if there were any mentions of other cinema trips for that year, and I found that there were. So I'd like to share with you the 4 films that I went to see in 1995 with my 14-year-old film reviews for each one. Now, when I say film reviews, don't worry, these are so short and succinct, very, very to the point, okay? So here we go. So there was Dumb and Dumber, and I said it was good. And then Street Fighter, it was shit and a waste of money. The Brady Bunch movie, it was okay, but not as good as I expected. And then Judge Dredd, it was ace, at least I thought so. And then I just would like to give a honourable mention for my review of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I know came out a few years before, probably 1992, I think. But we watched it on VHS at my friend Graham's house, and I just did a one-word review for this one, and it was just the word crap. So I feel quite bad about that now. I like that film now I've gotten older, and I appreciate it for its stylishness, but I didn't like it back then. So there you go. That's it. Thanks very much, guys.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Teresa. I do very much enjoy a short, succinct review when it comes to films, because it does save a lot of time. So one-word reviews are fantastic. But I really do need to watch A Craft, actually. That's reminded me.
Yeah, always great to hear from Teresa and get some of that on-the-ground reportage from the time. That is really, really valuable for us. And like you say, those one-word succinct reviews are really, really good as well. If only we could do that on this show, we'd be over and done in a few minutes, wouldn't we? Instead of hanging around for hours like we normally do. So maybe that's something we need to look at in future. But no, many thanks, Teresa, and do keep them coming in. And thanks for not using so much foul language this time.
So the final thing on the bulletin board is something that you have brought up a few times, Stu, and I kept forgetting to watch the clip, but I've watched it now. Do you want to tell the listeners what it is?
Yeah, this came up a little while ago, and I had to share it with you and with the listeners. So this is a clip that came up on the fantastic BBC Archive Instagram page, which I follow, and I heartily recommend that everybody who's listening does follow that because there's some really interesting stuff that gets thrown up every few days. And this clip was from a football show from the early 90s called Standing Room Only, and it concerned Wendy Toms, who famously went on to become the first female official in the Football League. At the time, she was working her way up through the non-leagues, and this was part of a feature of her getting ready and then travelling to a non-league game, which looks like it's being played at AFC Totton, which is a team from Hampshire. And it just shows her going through the motions, talking with the assistant referees that she's got, checking the pitch, and then going through and refereeing the game, basically. And there were a couple of things that I just wanted to pick out. First of all, Alex, the white Fiesta XR2. I mean, it's just sublime, isn't it? Absolutely sublime.
Absolutely stunning, yeah. I recognised it from the close-up that it was a Mark II Fiesta from that red pinstripe, but then when it pulled away and I saw those extended grey bumpers and that badge, I just thought, oh, I was in heaven.
Let's not forget the pepper pot wheels as well.
Oh, no, don't.
Fantastic mullet, moustache and early 90s goalkeeper shirt combination from one of the goalkeepers who plays in the match. You get a brief close-up shot of him. Mm-hmm. And one thing which resonated with me, which is something that we really do need to leave behind in the 90s, but unfortunately is something which still persists today, is that Wendy makes a comment that she was faced with sort of comments when she refereed a match that women should be staying at home in the kitchen and not refereeing football matches. And she says that she obviously has to put such things out of her mind and get on with the game and go and achieve what she wants to. And unfortunately, it's obviously something that we still suffer from over 30 years later. This is a clip from 1991. It's now 2024. And I don't think a female official complaining about that sort of thing would be out of place in today's game, which is obviously a very sad state of affairs and something that we need to sort out as soon as we can. So come on, football. Come on.
Amen to that. But what a pioneer that Wendy Toms is. I had no idea that she was operating so long ago. I always thought Sian Massey was the first lines person in British football on that sort of level. But great to see Wendy Toms was there right from the beginning of the 90s. So great stuff.
Well, the clip ends with her sort of saying what she wants to get out of her refereeing career, and she says that she would like to officiate at a cup final at some stage of her career. And I did actually look at her Wikipedia entry after I'd seen the clip, and she did get to those cup finals that she wanted to do, which is obviously a fitting end to a pioneering career that we, like I say, fully recommend you follow BBC Archive and definitely watch this clip. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, we'll put a link down below so you can go and watch it and give a little bit more love and recognition to Wendy Toms.
Absolutely. Can we make her the official referee of the pod?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's a done deal. Time now for What's the Most 90s, and it's another one of our more abstract subjects. As Alex, I ask you this week, what is the most 90s logo?
Well, before I give my opinion, let's go to our friends at the All Design podcast, Jaan and Jesper, who have kindly sent in their answer to this question. So let's see what they think.
As one of my strongest images of the 90s is staring at a screen of a computer that's booting up, and what am I seeing? That horrid, hyper-pixelated Microsoft Windows 3.1 logo. It never went away. It just sat there. It was like a burn-in. Of course it wasn't. It was just very slow loading, as PCs were in those days. But yeah, the Microsoft Windows logo, it was like 16 by 16 pixels or, 8 by, I don't know. It was, I can't talk about this. What about you, Jesper?
I think I was still more in the consumer focus at the time. While I was waiting for this horrid Microsoft logo to boot, I think I was filling my time with like weird things like Cartoon Network. Can you remember the 7-Up hang loose surfer dude?
The stick figure that wasn't really a stick figure.
And it couldn't be a stick figure because it was still pixelated.
But, there was one thing, there was one logo in the 90s that was amazing. I loved following it. There used to be, there's a magazine now called Dazed, but back in the day, the 90s day, it was called Dazed and Confused.
Oh.
And good reaction. I think they changed their logo each issue up until maybe like issue 4 or 5. But then that's when they really started nailing it. There was some tiny tweaks. I think the ampersand was slightly lighter weight. And then there it was, the perfection, the absolute 90s perfection of a logo. Dazed and Confused. And the best one was the cover with Richard E. Grant. That is so the 90s. I love that. I still have that magazine.
Do you love it authentically, or do you love it in sort of a nostalgic, ironic sort of way?
No, I love it for real. I think it's pure perfection. There's another 90s logo that I never saw in the 90s. The SBS train company in Singapore, their logo. Everyone I know in Singapore just loves it. It is so closely tied to childhood and teen years. This beautiful, strong red and white S. It's almost like a little seal for unpacking memories. It's like, yes, let's talk about this, but first let's remove this little S logo here from the train company. It was gorgeous. It had this strength and it had direction. It was beautiful, and then it was rebranded into something that is less good.
Wait a minute. So is this like the Singaporean version of almost like America Online? Like, wow, you could go anywhere and do anything?
No, it's a train company, Jesper. You know, they have these long things that look like buses, but they run on tracks.
Okay, so which one of these is legitimately your favorite 90s logo? Which one is the most iconic?
Well, I hate it, but it's the Microsoft Windows logo.
Yeah, I can't unsee it either. It's the Microsoft logo.
Well, that's fantastic, Stu. That's hard to argue with, isn't it? Let's hear from you first, actually, and then I'll give my answer, and then we'll decide what's the best one. So,
Okay.
What do you think?
If I said to you, an abstract Union flag streak across a racetrack, what would that conjure up?
Oh, what is that? What is that? That's an abstract Union flag across a racetrack. Did you say?
Yes, an abstract Union flag streak across a racetrack is how it's officially been described.
You're gonna have to tell me.
It's my favourite 90s sportswear brand, Reebok.
Oh, okay, that's what that is. That's interesting.
Yes, indeed. Now, I've obviously been looking at that logo for close to 30 years, and I've never really understood where it came from or what it was supposed to stand for. And until I actually researched it and read that is what it's supposed to look like. Now, obviously, every time I see it, I can't get away from that. It looks exactly like that. But yeah, the Reebok logo, for obvious reasons, we've already covered the Reebok step on this podcast on a number of occasions, and we've covered my favourite Aston Villa kits. Reebok were the main kit supplier for Aston Villa during the mid to late 90s, so obviously featured heavily in my own leisure wear. And just today, through the mail, I received this beautiful...
Oh, look at that.
This is the 96-97 away shirt, which then became the third shirt the season after. And you can see there, picked out in claret, but still unmistakably that lovely Reebok logo. So still packing them in today. There we go. That's one for the Juventus game next week. That will get its debut. And that's pretty much why I've gone for it. It was the most present logo during my 90s for that reason, because I was obviously a big Aston Villa fan, and that's who manufactured the kit. And I just love it. So I'm going for the Reebok logo.
Well, fair enough, Stu. I think that's a great answer. And the Reebok Classic, of course, was one of the premier 90s trainers, along with, as you say, the Reebok Step Up and the Reebok Pump. I think, yeah, lots of reasons why that's a great shout. I very nearly went for the Nerf logo from 92 to 98. That was the one I was about to submit. Go and take a look at that if you can find it. But I've actually gone for Fat Willy's Surf Shack. This came to me like a bolt from the blue because these T-shirts were everywhere, sort of around primary school age for me, so early 90s. And for anyone who doesn't know the Fat Willy's logo, it's fluorescent, multicoloured fluorescent typeface. It's sort of scrawled like as though it's been daubed on with paint in a kind of scrappy way. And yeah, as I say, Fat Willy's in that colour and then Surf Shack underneath. And these T-shirts were just everywhere. Yeah, they were so popular at this time, and they do still exist. You see them occasionally now. They're based in Newquay and Cornwall, so I don't know how national they were as a brand and how many people outside of the Southwest wore their stuff or would recognise it now. And I'm sure it's probably not very big outside of the UK, so I'm aware that it's very domestic based as an answer. But I just thought the fact that it's fluorescent colours, which you've established recently, are the most 90s colours in terms of sort of the palette, and then also it being a brand that's very of the 90s, I think that's why I chose it, basically, that combination. So, Stu, we've got Reebok, Fat Willie's, and then, of course, Jaan and Jesper's fantastic answer, I think far more global, of the Windows logo from that era. What do you think?
I mean, it's a great shout. That Microsoft Windows logo is probably the most famous logo of the 90s, I would say, all round. And specifically Windows 3.1 got me thinking about my old English classroom at secondary school, which had, for almost the entire time I was in that classroom, a dusty old computer in the corner, a single computer on a single computer desk that nobody ever switched on. I might even have had one of those big plastic covers over it.
Oh, yeah.
And it got to year 11, and eventually myself and my friend Phil Greenland, we stayed in the classroom after the lesson had ended and it was break time to just try and turn this computer on and see what it was all about. And it had Windows 3.1 on it. Now, at this time, XP was the most common operating system, but this computer had 3.1. We unfortunately couldn't explore much further than that because it would only work if you kept your finger on the power button.
Okay.
If you released the power button, it automatically cut out, which is presumably why it has been left to sort of rot in the corner of a classroom under a plastic cover. So that's my main memory of Windows 3.1, and when it was mentioned in the clip there from the guys, it took me right back to that classroom and that moment. So a great shout for the Microsoft Windows logo. I think we've got three very strong competitors here.
I think my proposal is thus. We have Windows for the global, Reebok for the national, and Fat Willie's for the regional choice.
So they all win?
They all win.
Oh, that's a great shout. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Absolutely.
Thanks again to Jaan and Jesper for sending in their answer to that. You should all go and listen to their podcast, which is fantastic. And you can find it at designpodcast.org. We'll put a link below as well, so you can just click on that rather than typing it in yourself. And there's a full 5-season archive of all our episodes on there. And seriously, go and check it out because these guys, just talk about all things design, and it's a great podcast. And we really appreciate them submitting their answer.
Thanks so much for that, guys. When you get round to hearing this episode, if you could write in and let us know if you know what Fat Willie's is, that'd provide us with a really good sort of sample, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to know how far and wide Fat Willie's has reached. Time now for the main topic at hand, which is the Argos catalogue. Obviously, we're coming up to Christmas, and me and Stu will be picking out the things we want to add to our Christmas lists. This is going to follow the same format from the first Argos episode we did many moons ago. We're each going to just flick through, talk about a few things that we found, and add them to our Christmas lists. We've each chosen a different catalogue from a different point in the decade. I, being older, am going for earlier in the decade, so I have the spring-summer catalogue from 1991, and I'm going to go first, and then Stu will talk about his catalogue from 1999 after me. So let's get going. Oh, we really urge you as well to follow the links below and read along, and you can see the pictures and read what we're talking about. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit blind for you. And Stu, I'm going to be going by the numbers, the issue numbers, as in the numbers on the website, rather than the actual catalogue numbers, because it's easier. So
Understood.
If you're reading along, it's the numbers from the website rather than the actual page numbers from the scans, if that makes sense. And we're starting on, just a quick note, on page 5 here. If you go around to the bottom there.
Yep.
The Elizabeth Duke section there. Just wanted to point out that hair. That picture in the middle. Zoom in on that hair. Isn't that quite something, Stu?
I assume we're talking about the person on the left of the picture.
Yes, we are, yes.
That is incredible hair.
It's... yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say. Just take a look at it yourself and see what you think. Next, we're going to page 37. Just a quick note here on really just a sign of the times that we were dealing with back here in 1991. So it's the right-hand page on page 37, and it's items 5 and 6, I believe. So these are rear seat belts, which you attach yourself to your own car, because back then, of course, not all cars had rear seatbelts as standard, and they didn't come in as legal standard until, I guess, shortly after this.
Wow.
So the idea that you would have to put them in yourself if you didn't want your children to be thrown through the windscreen every time you had a slight prang. Just, amazing really to think that even this late it was still not standard. I don't know quite what we were thinking. Also on that page there's a crook lock as well, another thing we don't see so much of these days, but something that we had back in the day to keep the thieves at bay. And it did work. No one ever stole our Mark IV Escort, or either of them actually, so they did work.
Strong memories of that big orange rubber coated hook end of the crook lock. We must have had one in the house or something like it, because I have a strong Proustian rush there, seeing that picture of the smell and the feel of the rubber.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
And then on page 41, just going to skim past the beaded seat covers, something you do not see very much these days at all, not even in taxis. You don't see these in Ubers, do you, the beaded seat covers very often?
You don't. So, did they have some sort of like health benefit? Was it supposed to like be a massage for the back and thighs as you were driving, or was there supposed to be, or were they purely decorative?
It could be. You're right. It could be something to do with sort of circulation. According to the description here, actually, item 15, the Tex-Nix bead seat cover, simple universal fitting, hundreds of polished wooden beads give continuous gentle massaging action and allow circulation of air. So actually it makes perfect sense. I feel silly for thinking they were just for show. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. If you're sat in a car all day, sweating like nobody's business through the summer, I'm sure this is going to aid circulation and probably feel quite comfortable. So that's why they existed.
We don't have to take the piss out of everything that came from the 90s, mate. Some things actually had a purpose and a use.
I know. It's good to be reminded of that sometimes. Unfortunately, the rest of this will be mainly taking a piss out of things from the 90s. But
we've got to get back to what we know, yeah, definitely.
yeah. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any anti-static / anti-car sickness strips in this catalogue, so I don't know.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
Maybe you had to go in-store to get them from like a Halfords or something like that, but not in this catalogue. Now, if we could go to page 50, this is the first item I actually want to put on my list. So, yeah, page 50-51.
Mm-hmm.
And on the left, we are looking... This is the hold-all section, basically. The sports hold-all section, your sports bags. And you will see there's a few of them here. But there's two specific ones I want to talk about. Item 5 and item 11. So there's the Jaguar leather look hold-all, which... Mm-hmm. For some reason, Jaguar, as in the car brand Jaguar, did luggage for a bit, didn't they? And you would see them around school occasionally, but more likely amongst commuters and travellers on public transport.
I mean, this, for me, is chartered accountant going to play squash on a Tuesday evening.
Yes, exactly.
This is the vibe I'm getting here.
Yeah. So they'd pull up in their Mark III Cavalier with their Jaguar sports bag, go into the squash court, hope that people see that and think, oh, maybe they've got an XJ6 or or a Sovereign like in the car park. But
beaded seat covers work wonders on the old thighs on the way there. Get them in trim for the match.
Yeah. This one has a zip-off end compartment, which is you don't get that very often anymore, do you? A detachable part of your bag, but very cool. And then item 11 is the head equivalent, which these were everywhere. Like we had one of these in the house. The PVC leather look hold-all made by Head. This one's purple and red, but there was a black and red one which was very prominent in the film Trainspotting, which Renton, I seem to remember, puts loads of cash in and walks off with at the end. So yeah, a very 90s hold-all there. A lot of people, I think, will see that and remember vividly someone in their life having one of them.
If I was going to pick one of these bags for myself, I'd probably go for number 4. The Puma Trisport hold-all and shoe bag. I can definitely see myself rocking up to Sunday League with that. You've got your kit in the main bag, and then you've got your Adidas Copper Mundials in the boot bag. Absolutely superb. Or probably in this case Puma Kings. You want to show a bit of brand loyalty. And I have got a pair of Puma Kings at the moment, so maybe I should say that. Not that I've got an endorsement or anything like that. just for balance. Although Jeff, if you could work your magic.
He hasn't got an endorsement, but he very much wants one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, anyway, Jaguar. If Jaguar's still doing luggage, I'll take a Jaguar bag for sure.
So let's now move on to page 52 and 53. Oh, it's just the next page, actually, for what is definitely my favourite image in this whole catalogue.
I can see it already.
This is item number 1 here, which is the it's the Leisure-Wise Abdomex stomach exerciser.
Stop the podcast. This is it. We can't go anywhere from here. This is it. We weren't prepared for this, but we've hit a peak. This is it. This will be the last episode. Thank you everybody for everything. We're out of here. This is it. I've got my Puma endorsement. We're off. This is it.
So yes, as I say, the Leisure-Wise Abdomex. If you're not reading along while you're listening to this, you probably don't know what on earth we're talking about. This is a stomach exerciser for use in the office. Apparently, it strengthens all major stomach muscles. A 5-minute workout is equivalent to 20 minutes of vigorous sit-ups. And based on the picture, you sit on your office stool or your office chair, and you sort of rest one end of it in your lap, and then there's a metal beam that goes out, and then you hold on to the other end, and you sort of thrust it into yourself, I think. But the images of a man wearing a full shirt and tie and office trousers, so he's obviously at work in the office, and he's doing an exercise I don't know why he's doing this in the middle of the office, but the look on his face is of someone who has just inadvertently thrust a piece of cheap Argos exercise gear directly into his groin.
Yes.
And the effects have this split second have just reached his pain sensor, and that is the expression on his face. It's quite something, isn't it?
We're building a story here. So this fella's got his Mark III Cavalier outside with his Jaguar Holdall with the squash racket in it.
Yeah, that's
beaded
true.
seat cover ready to go.
Yeah.
And this is the pre-match workout.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. This is what he was doing at 4:45, wasn't it? Just before he left the office, he wanted to do something to get warmed up. He knew the beaded seat cover wasn't going to do it alone, and unfortunately, he has had a mishap there. So I don't know. He's going to be limping when he gets out of the car. That's for sure. But yes, as I say, definitely my favourite image of the whole catalogue.
Oh, that is superb. Well, we'll see if any of your other choices add to this story that we sort of inadvertently created.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that hasn't become some sort of meme. I'm surprised that this has just sat there and it's been waiting to be discovered, and we've discovered it. That's a fantastic spot. Brilliant, mate.
Thank you. Just a quick pass over the next page, page 55. You'll see Guile from Street Fighter 2 in the middle there.
It's him, yeah.
Now we're going to go all the way up to page 156 and 157.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is, at the bottom of the page, it's the 2 dolls. Now these are adult dolls. This is Sally and Molly, porcelain dolls. They have porcelain head, hands and feet, and a soft body, white cotton dress trimmed with broderie anglais lace, and blue ribbon with a straw look hat. The stand is included, brackets unsuitable for children under 14. So I've raised these more out of genuine interest because I'm not quite sure who these were sort of aimed at and how many people bought them. But you would get these sort of things in the back of magazines. You'd see adverts for these sort of things, wouldn't you? And I find them sort of fascinating. And the idea that they're not suitable for anyone under 14. So you could be in year 9 at this point, and they don't think that these are safe enough for you to have in your possession. And I don't quite know why that is. I just wondered what the deal was with them and whether you can still get this sort of thing or if it sort of died out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I guess they're supposed to be collector's items, but I can tell you now that you still very much do get this sort of thing in the back of today's magazines. When I find myself at the home of Legend of the Pod, Glyn Joslin, and find myself flicking through their What's on TV magazine, which I like to do if I'm able to, there is quite often adverts in the back for exactly this sort of thing. So it still pervades today.
Okay, that's interesting. I really don't want to sort of ridicule it because God knows a lot of us on this podcast and a lot of other men, and I kind of assume these dolls are aimed maybe a little bit more at women. Not that they have to be bought by women, but they're probably aimed more at women. And us guys are not exactly averse to collecting all sorts of stuff and putting them on our shelves just for show, as well, I mean, a good example in a few pages is the miniature pool table that was very popular around this time, which was completely pointless. So, yeah, I don't want to ridicule it, but I just think they're sort of an interesting thing that you just see in certain places. But, yeah, I just wondered how popular they were.
Just before we move on from this page, can I point out the item number 8, which is just to the right of the dolls. Nice to see, coming to the end of his career at this point, Peter Shilton sorting himself out for the years to come by getting himself into some nice sort of printed luggage there.
Yeah, the Shilton tapestry bag, very nice. Floral design. Well done, Peter. Right, so let's move on up to page 246, 247. And this is item number 4, and 7 actually. These are, we're in a toy section here for anyone not reading along. And these are the Werebears, which is a product which I'd completely forgotten about until looking at this catalogue this week. Now these are teddy bears that on the surface, like in their normal form, just look like normal, cute, colourful, friendly teddy bears. But you can turn over the head or like the jowls of the bear, and it reveals like a new head that's scary. It's got like fangs and got an angry face and looks sort of fearsome. And you can also lift up their paws to reveal claws, and hence the Werebear name. And I just remember these being a thing very much at this time. A lot, I suppose, an early version of, say, the Furby or the Tamagotchi. They were just a bit of a craze in the early mid-90s. And yeah, I was just doing a little bit of reading about them, and apparently they were created in 1983, so a little bit before the 90s, by George Nicholas, who's a muralist, a philanthropist, a charity director, a cartoonist, animator, and author. And he created them so that boys could have teddy bears without worrying about being bullied, which is, I don't know if I fully believe that as an explanation. It's a slightly strange explanation. Like you're going to take your teddy bear in and someone's going to bully you, so you're going to reveal I suppose maybe, yeah. It's an interesting theory. It's quite a depressing idea that we had to think about that back then, and probably still do. But yeah, they apparently came with cassette tapes that were narrated by Oliver Postgate of Bagpuss fame, and it would give you the backstory of the Werebears and where they came from. So there's 4 characters here, all with different names. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But yeah, just an interesting piece of toy history here from the early 90s. I think some of our listeners might remember these, and hopefully they'll get a flashback like I did when they see them. And yeah, that's why I want them on my Christmas list, really. Just a nice throwback with a slightly interesting backstory.
Yeah, they look very nice. Howler, Grizzler, Fang, and Gums are the 4 bears.
Okay, yeah.
So there are 2 entries here, as you say. One for the main size bears, and then they've also created a range of small werebears as well. And what's annoying me here is that the photographer hasn't bothered to put them in the same order in the picture.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And that's annoying me quite a bit. I don't know why they couldn't have matched that up. But it's a very small gripe. I don't know who I should write to about that.
Well, we've already fallen out with Argos, so you've got nothing to lose, really, have you?
No, that is true, yeah. I ought to fire it into them, oughtn't I, yeah.
Before I move on to my final choice, I will just skim over page 268, where we will find, of all the items in here, I think the only thing that I still own, which is item number 3. It's a Sony Digicube clock radio alarm. Nothing interesting about it other than the fact that I do still have one, and I bought it, or was bought for me, probably about 1996, and it's still going very, very strong. So thank you, Sony, for your usual fantastic build quality, and yes, still waking me up every day to this day.
Oh, that's fantastic. At what time does it wake you up?
It's set for 6:29, a very specific time, and it's become a tradition now to make it 29, just to give me that extra 1 minute of waking up time after it goes off.
And what radio station do you use?
5 Live, of course.
5 Live, of course, a great choice.
There's no digi on this. It's pure analog, so I have to go for medium wave, long wave, or FM, and that's the best one.
I like the look of this item here, the number 6, the Sony ICFC 600L. Looks like a bit of a behemoth here. It's got a built-in cassette player. Yeah, that looks perfect. And the dual alarms, you could have 6:29 and 6:31, just in case you haven't got going by then.
Yeah. Hang on, what's this item number 9? It's got something that sort of extends out the top of it. It looks like Wall-E.
Oh, good lord.
It doesn't explain what it is in the description.
Yes, it does. It says it's a high-intensity lamp.
Oh, yes, of course, yes. So if you want to wake up and then immediately interrogate someone. Right, let's move on then to my final choice, which is on page 283. Bottom right, it's item 27. And that is the video cassette storage cases. Pack of 10 will store VHS, Betamax or V2000 video cassettes in luxury leather look vinyl video books. And these, I think everyone will know what I'm talking about here, even if you can't see it. It's those things you put your cassette tapes in, or your video VHS tapes in, to put on your shelf and make you look classy, like you're in some sort of Georgian library with all your ancient tomes and your classic literature, which of course fooled absolutely no one. I don't really get the point, really. I suppose people who just wanted something that looked tidy and a bit classy and were just kind of lying to themselves and everyone who came around to the house, basically.
How much of the stuff on your Christmas list this year is leather look?
I know. We're in the leather look era, aren't we, in the early 90s?
We better keep it away from any open fires, I think. There's a lot of vinyl here. What's really drawing my eye is the little yellow inset box just underneath the picture of the leather look video storage cases. Great prizes to be won every month with Memorex and Argos. And if I'm not mistaken, it's pretty blurry, but that is a picture from the League Cup final where Luton Town beat Arsenal. 1989, I think? Maybe 88. So that picture is a few years out of date by this point.
Yeah, excellent eyesight. Well spotted.
Entry form available on request or with any purchase of Memorex audio tape or battery. So obviously no clue there to what the prizes might be, but very interesting there.
Yeah, well, maybe you win a set of leather look VHS cassette holders, maybe, yeah.
To put your other prize, a video of the 1989 League Cup final in.
Yeah. Also, had you ever heard of the V2000? We've all heard of VHS and Betamax, but I hadn't heard of the V2000 before.
No, I have to say, when you read that out, it didn't strike me as being familiar, so that's something to look into.
Well, I did a little bit of digging, and apparently it was the third option in the videotape format wars of the 70s and 80s. This one was developed by Philips and Grundig, where I suppose the Betamax was Sony, wasn't it? And the VHS, I think, was JVC. So this was one that wasn't even Betamax. So not a great story for V2000.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it. Wow, that really can't have had many takers.
No. It actually looked like a giant cassette tape, as in like a proper cassette tape. And you could apparently flip it over and have stuff on the other side as well.
Okay,
so,
right.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's me done then, I think. As you point out, probably not something to put in a stocking too close to the fire, otherwise the whole thing will go up.
Alex, a fantastic list there, and one that I would be very, very pleased to find under the tree on Christmas morning. But that's an early 90s take on things. I'm here to provide you with the late 90s take on things. I am looking at the 1999 Argos Superstore catalogue, which we will, again, link to in the description so you can read along while you listen. And we are, again, using the issue page numbers as opposed to any numbers you might see on the actual pages. So, first of all, Alex, if you'll just turn to pages 2 and 3, I just wanted to show you a lovely fleet of transit vans and a lovely trim phone.
That's the classic transit for me. That's the transit of my youth and will always be the transit that springs to my mind.
Yeah, definitely. This was the one that my dad's work had around this time, and he would occasionally, on school holidays, pick me up and take me on deliveries that he was making if he knew that I was around and wouldn't have much to do. So we used to go and have adventures in the transit van sometimes, which was really fun. But this is all just demonstrating, you can pick up the phone to check it's in stock, and then you can get a blue transit van whipping around within 48 hours to deliver your Binatone clock radio with an alarming high-intensity interrogation lamp attached. Yeah. Okay then, so moving on to page 7, and you'll see on the right hand side here immediately why I've gone with this page.
Okay, yes.
And what I've done, Alex, is you've gone with things that you would like to have seen under your tree. I really couldn't get away from things that I definitely had for Christmas around this time, or my birthday around this time. And I spend most of my free time now and my spare money buying back things that I had around this time. So it seemed like the right thing to do, just to have a look at some of my favourite things that I would have picked up around this time. And one of the first things I wanted to look at here is number 8, which is the fluorescent Adidas goalkeeper gloves. Listed here as Adidas Juniors goalkeepers gloves. Polycotton glove with printed PU backhand and latex reinforced palm, side entry vent, wrist with Velcro fastening. And I definitely had this pair of gloves. Do you remember these sorts of gloves where it wasn't an all-over latex palm, it was just a strip of latex on each finger and then a bigger bit of latex for the palm itself?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and pretty soon after this, I think when it became clear that I was a bit serious about goalkeeping, I graduated to gloves that had proper grip all over the hand. But this was probably the last pair of those that I had, so I very fondly remember these. The gloves that I would have wanted are definitely the number 9 there, the Umbro Contra goalkeeper gloves, which were worn by David Seaman at the time. That is a fantastic Umbro glove there. Yeah. And while we are on the subject of football, just looking over the side, you've got the official World Cup 98 match ball there, the Adidas one. But the one I would have picked is number 5, the Mitre Fluo Flare Premier League ball. Look at that. And whoever had this catalogue that's been scanned has actually ticked both of these as well.
Yes.
So clearly they've gone through and said, I want both of these.
Yeah. And I can't blame them at all. They're the two things I want from this whole double-page spread, for sure, those two footballs. Great stuff.
I mean, they're classics of the art form, aren't they? They really are.
Yeah.
On to page 10. Left-hand side this time. And Alex, it won't take much figuring out for you which item I'm going to talk about here. I don't think.
No, because I remember you having this bag in school with every band you liked scrawled on it in biro.
That is correct. And this actually came up, listeners, you might remember at the start of the episode, I referenced the fact that Alex and I had been lucky enough to be in each other's company at the weekend. Alex arranged a reunion of his friends that he'd graduated from Corsham School with. They all met up at the weekend and I was invited along as well as a sort of peripheral member of the group around the time being, as I was a few years younger. And I am always remembered amongst this group for my ubiquitous Umbro Italia backpack in fluorescent orange. Again, we've mentioned this on the podcast before, but it is a complete classic of the school backpack art form. I know I keep using that phrase, but the items that I'm talking about, there's nothing else to describe them by, is there?
No, it's true. It's true. This is the one item that is Stu Joslin to me, or at least the Stu Joslin I knew back then. So I'm so glad it's in here. Did you manage to find one and buy one back?
I could only find a blue one, unfortunately, the last time we discussed this. But now that my Vinted addiction is up and running, maybe I should check on there, because I've not checked on there, so maybe somebody's got one for me there. But look at the side pockets, the little boot compartment at the bottom. It's just got everything. And as soon as I get one, I'm going to put the Stereophonics logo from the third album there on the top flap, and we'll be off and running. I'll be taking that to work with me.
That is wonderful. Wonderful.
We are skipping on a little bit now, actually, to page 342. But don't worry, there's plenty to go. It's just that most of the stuff I was looking at is actually in the back side of the catalogue. So please don't worry, I'm not running out of ideas already. Number 14. On the left-hand side of the page, the Alba PCD 312 Blue Rechargeable Personal CD Player. I had this CD player in gold. It was an extremely good friend to me until my dad dropped it on the driveway outside the house one day and completely destroyed it. I wanted to mention this because, again, when I saw it, I hadn't seen one for years, and this was a very good friend to me, this personal CD player. It was the first one I had. I loved it very much, and to be fair to Glyn, he did replace it. Actually, I think, looking at the one below, I think it might have been a Goodman's item that he replaced it with, funnily enough. But he did do that for me. Last time I remember seeing my gold Alba CD Walkman before it got destroyed was with the By the Way album by the Red Hot Chili Peppers inside, and I'd unwittingly switched it on in my bag during an art lesson. Nobody could hear it, but it was still playing and the batteries were running down, so then I couldn't listen to it on my lunch break, and I was a bit upset about that.
So you threw it away.
So the next day, my dad smashed it on the drive. Yeah. No, if Miss Shalaker had found out that I had music playing in my bag, I don't think my life would have been worth living. So I'm quite pleased, really, that I was able to keep it under wraps.
Oh man, yeah. CD Walkmans. What a time and place. Don't shake them around too much because it'll skip.
Oh no, this one's got a 10-second anti-shock.
Oh, how does that work? 10-second anti-shock.
Don't know. Okay, moving on slightly to page 349. Now, this is one that I never actually had any of these items on this page. But I just wanted to put this to you, Alex, and put it to the listeners. Pocket TVs. Were they any good? Did they ever work? Did anybody actually ever have one?
Yeah, I never had one. I always thought it was an amazing idea. Like, what a luxury to be able to just have TV wherever you were. It just seemed like the future, and an idyllic future at that. But I never had one, never knew anyone that had one either, and so I can't really say whether they did work or not. I'd be also fascinated to know.
I know we say this a lot on the pod, normally rather jokingly, when we say do write in if you've got any experience of this, but if anybody listening did have or know somebody who had a pocket TV during this time, do write in and let us know, because we'd love to hear from anybody who had one of these. I'm looking at the cheapest model here, the Citizen ST655 for £60. So we've got a 5.5cm screen, 62,400 pixels. It's backlit, telescopic aerial, so you've got to pull out a 3-foot long aerial to get any reception, which I quite like the idea of that, actually. Like you've got one of those model aeroplane remote controls
Yeah.
in the massive aerials, but you're just watching Take Your Pick on a 5cm screen.
That is such a small screen, isn't it? What is the point? Just wait till you get home.
But I remember thinking that these were like the height of sophistication and sort of technological advance, you know.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I know, totally. I mean, the sort of image they've used to demonstrate them on the screen, on the screen of all, well, 3 of them, seems to be a very close-up shot of the middle of a shoal of goldfish. I don't know what they're watching there. Slightly odd image.
I thought it was like an aerial shot of some pigs. But I think you might be right. I think it's fish.
I think there's lots of fish rather than...
Yeah. I think you might be
Or it
right.
could be ITV's Life Inside the Sty, maybe, from August 99.
Of course, what I should have done, being 11 years old and having no money, was got myself an Argos personal account and got one on interest-free credit terms that they're advertising here on the previous page, which is obviously supposed to go hand in hand. Want a pocket TV? Can't afford one? No, just take out some credit. So now back to the items that I actually did have, and now on to one that I very much cherished very dearly. Page 395, please. On the right-hand side, top right-hand corner, you will see an original Mark I Game Boy in yellow with a carry case and with Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. I did have this. I didn't get it from Argos. I got it from Woolworths. But it's the same, exactly the same item. It came with exactly the same things. I loved this Game Boy. I love those games. I still have the original Super Mario Land 2 cartridge that I got with this set. It's the only thing that remains. I don't know where the other bits are. But I still play it on my Game Boy Color now and again. I'll go and have a go at Super Mario Land 2. And this is one of the items that I remembered from the entire catalogue most fondly. Probably this and the Umbro Italia bag are my 2 top picks, I would say, from the entire catalogue. This was just so meaningful to me. And there's so much other good stuff here on this double page spread. You've got the Nintendo 64 with GoldenEye, which we've discussed ad nauseum on the podcast. The Game Boy camera and the Game Boy printer were items, luxury items, that I never had the pleasure of sort of getting, and I'm probably quite glad about that, because they do look quite rudimentary, and not entirely sure how much use I'd have got out of those, so maybe it was for the best.
Yeah. The image they've used as an example is just appalling quality. That's the best they could come up with to demonstrate the quality of the product. Then
is that a close up of a shoal of fish or an aerial shot of some pigs?
I think it's just a very close up image of the friend of the photographer.
Yes, most probably.
Just sort of side on. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what the point of that was and how popular that was back in the day.
Interesting to see that they were actually on this page. You can get the original sort of brick Game Boy in yellow with those two games, but then you do have the Game Boy Color there as well, which I spoke about obviously during the What's the Most 90s Color a little while ago. I brought my Game Boy in for show and tell, and it's one of those things where they're selling two sort of models of the same item at the same time.
Yeah, different generations in the same catalogue. It must just be that crossover period, I suppose.
Yeah, I would think so.
Nice also to see that they've got Encarta 99 available for the PC for 50 quid. It's quite a lot, isn't it?
What's that there? Greetings 99. What do you do with that? Make your own...
Oh, you create Hallmark quality greetings card using 15,000 graphics, 126 fonts, and 6,000 Hallmark connections messages. 6,000 messages. I mean, it's just happy birthday, happy Christmas, congratulations, isn't it? Get well soon. But there you go, 6,000 options.
Do you know I used to do that for a little bit of extra pocket money?
Did you?
I used to design greetings cards on the Time PC and then make them up to order for people and then sell them for like £1 or £2.
Oh, really? Who were you selling them to? Just
friends?
Or?
Family members, friends. Yeah. I even had a company name, company logo. The company logo was an alligator.
What was the company name?
Farty Greeting Cards.
Okay. But where did that name come from?
I'm not entirely sure, but I think I need to resurrect it. I'm pretty sure I would have trademarked it at the time, so hopefully that's been kept in perpetuity for me. And now nobody's going to jump on the farty bandwagon, seeing as I haven't done it for maybe sort of 25 years. But yeah, that's, in these hard cost of living crisis times, maybe we'll go back to producing the old greetings cards. What do you think? If there's anybody out there, I'll tell you what, if anybody out there listening wants me to create a greetings card for them, I'll do the first one for free. You can have that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, because I feel now like I want to get back in the game.
Yeah, just quote the code AllRight90s.
Oh yeah, you must do that. You must do that to activate the offer, definitely. Otherwise, it's full price.
We should have been talking about the logo for our What's the Most 90s logo talk. You should have brought it in.
Yeah, it's just all rushed back to me. I haven't thought about farty greetings cards probably since the last time I did one.
Since our last bulk order.
Well, I remember doing a fairly humorous one for someone who had just passed their driving test in the family, and it was bloody L, you've passed. I was quite proud of that.
Oh, that's quite clever.
That was a good one. You had the L plate sort of on a little angle and all that. And,
nice.
Everyone's going to be staying inside now. You're on the road. I mean, it writes itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say for someone who just passed away. I thought that's why it ended.
No. We never did those. No.
Okay.
We left the bereavements alone. My unique brand of humour probably wasn't best placed to deal with that, I wouldn't think. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Bloody hell, you've died.
Oh, superb! Right. You'll have to come on as my as my writer. I think we'll have to make this some pod business.
Yeah,
I think.
The pod business. Yeah.
Very briefly, page 416, top right of the left-hand page, if that makes sense to you. There's a lad playing in a sort of small portable goal. All I really wanted to say is that shirt is going to be worth a few bob now.
Yeah, I hope he's still got it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get one, and I've been trying for ages. It looks to me like he might be wearing West Ham shorts, though, so I don't know if that's like an Easter egg that the photographers put in.
Yeah, they maybe tried to kill two birds with one stone, and he's just thrown that jersey on over the top of a West Ham home kit from a previous photo or catalogue.
Possibly, because it's not the Tottenham shorts that the fella in the with the what do you even call that? That thing where you tied the elastic around your waist and what did it even do? What was it supposed to do? Like to improve your control or something?
I think all it did was just rebound and hit you in the groin.
Well, yeah, I mean that's my that was my experience of it. But then again, I never was a great player. Let's just read the.
Oh yeah, it's in green. Item 17: the Mondo Kickoff Soccer Trainer. Football fixed to a belt and buckle by heavy-duty elastic for practicing skills and having fun on your own. Suitable for any surface.
Well,
I think it's for practicing being in the wall. So you just like really leather it, and then it comes flinging back at you, and you just have to like jump up, put your hand over your crotch and your arm over your neck, and then just jump and try and block it.
I suppose it might have been decent for goalkeeping as well, because you just sort of kick it as hard as you can and then try and catch it as it comes back to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just become intrigued. I didn't pick this up the first time, by number 22, the Shearer Volley Blaster.
I was just looking at that as well.
Yeah,
What's
because
that?
I was intrigued by the picture, and I was like, who's that? And it's Alan Shearer. This amazing pocket soccer trainer will help you perfect your footballing skills. It looks like exactly the same thing, but in miniature.
Yeah, that is rubbish.
I don't understand that at all.
Just a little tennis ball size sponge ball on a string that Shearer looks like he's... Because there's a picture of Alan Shearer modelling it. Yeah, I imagine he had a tidy 5% on every item sold. And he's just trying to do keep ups with his head, whatever they're called, head ups, with this tiny ball. But that would be impossible. No one could do that.
I wonder if there are any on eBay. That's one for the list
Leave
after
it.
the
No,
episode.
come on, leave it.
Leave it, Jocelyn. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Okay, before I get too tempted, page 430. In the blue inset on the left-hand page, Puzz 3D.
Puzz 3D, yeah.
How about some Puzz 3D? We've got some great sets here. We've got Big Ben. We've got Tower Bridge. We've got a Mississippi Steamboat. We've got a double-decker bus. We've even got a Bavarian Mansion, should you fancy it. I think I had some Puzz 3Ds. I don't know what they were, or if I ever completed it and had enough guile and interest to complete it. I'd like to think I did. But it did bring something back for me. Like, there definitely was a Puzz 3D in the house.
Yeah, I remember them being around. I don't know if they still are. That logo is very familiar, so I don't know if you still get them in toy shops or what, but I've never given one a go.
I think I'd like the grandfather clock here. It's super challenging, features a real working clock, and requires one AA battery. So I love something that has moving parts and a little bit extra to it, so I probably would have gone there for the grandfather clock. And it's clearly there as tall as a crouching woman.
Yeah. Crouching woman, hidden, Puzz 3D.
Yeah, we can work on that. We can
Scratch
workshop
that
that.
out. Scratch out. Edit that out.
All the fours, 444.
Okay.
Now, you might know, Alex, that I was a big Action Man guy around this time, spending many happy hours with Diamond Joe Barter, playing with Action Men. And he had Dr. X, I had Mr. Gangrene, so we had both the villains between us, which obviously made for some great play dates together. But what I want to talk about here is one that I never had. It's number 18. It's an Action Man photo mission. He holds a camera that takes real pictures, looks straight through the viewfinder to pick your shots for use with any 110mm colour film cartridge. He comes with a film, sunglasses, pistol and holster. The film is for daylight use only. So, I can't help but wonder how... I was going to say I can't help but wonder what the quality of the pictures would have been like from this camera, but if Action Man is accepting a standard photo film, then I'm guessing they must be as a normal photo would have been.
Well, it'd be the quality of the lens, won't it, I think. I can't imagine something would fit in there that was any good, but, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this was one of those pioneering technologies that led us to the smaller cameras that we got in, 5-10 years after this. But, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting item. I would love to know how popular they were, and like you say, how quality the photos were.
Yeah, I mean, you get 12 exposures for free there. I'm just looking across the page for any of the other dolls I had, but I don't think I had any of the dolls here. I certainly didn't have the mountain bike. That would have been cool, but I had the Jeep, and I was more than happy with that. So, just a quick mention for Action Man there, stepping into the technological age.
So would you take this into Boots, do you think? Like, when you take in your film, you would just go up to the Boots counter, the photo counter, and just hand them an Action Man and say... There's 24 pictures on there, please.
I would like to think that every Boots branch in the country had to have somebody who was trained in extracting the film from an Action Man. Like, there was a special sort of set of tools that you had to have in order to get it out. You couldn't just pop it out from some sort of mechanism. There had to be somebody who, at great expense, was trained in order to get these photos. I'd love to think that. And finally for me, we spent a lot of time in the toy section, but I'm not apologetic about that at all. 453 on the right-hand side of the page, Connects, General.
Yeah, Connects. Of its time, mid-90s to late 90s, and probably not much longer, I'd have thought.
I would think so.
Yes. Yeah. I remember getting some of this free at some event, maybe Live 96. They just gave everyone a few pieces of it, enough to make a rudimentary windmill, I seem to remember. And that was the only Connects I ever had.
Mm-hmm. Well, I entered a regional Connects competition, of course, lest we forget.
Oh, yes. Was this This wasn't the Millennium Dome.
This was the Millennium Dome, yes, you're quite right.
Course,
yeah, I knew we'd covered it before, but I had to mention it again. Yeah, this was my big Connects event, 1998, I think. And we went to the heats of a Connects building competition, built a protest piece about the building of the Millennium Dome, and were not taken through into the regional finals. So there you go, bittersweet memories of Connects. And I'm a big Lego man these days, really. I've gone back to where it all began, but I've still got fond memories of Connects as well. So when that appeared in this catalogue, I had to mention it. I'm quite happy with that haul for my 90s Christmas here out of this catalogue. I would be really, really happy if I got some of those. Not all of them, I'm not greedy, but some of them.
Well, that was a lot of fun going back to those old Argos catalogues. I think both of our Christmas lists are a little bit fuller now for that.
Yeah, definitely, and I can bring you live news that there are no Umbro Italia backpacks on eBay at this specific moment in time, but the search will continue.
Well, if you, the listener, have any thoughts on Argos catalogues, any memories of Argos shopping at all, or if you want to go through these catalogues and choose some things for your own Christmas list, we'd love to hear from you. So please do get in touch in the usual ways, which is on our link tree, which is linked to below. So click on there, find our Instagram, our Twitter, our email address, and wherever else we are, we're on there. So go on there and send us a message.
I have a question about our social media ways of getting in touch, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to follow the many, many people in the days gone by who have abandoned X, formerly known as Twitter, and gone over to Blue Sky? Because I've got to tell you, on a personal level, I cannot be bothered to sign up for another social media platform.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking. Like I was going to say today, the same thing, yeah. I don't know if this is going to stay in the edit or not, but stay tuned, dear listener, to find out where we end up.
We can have these admin meetings on the air. It's fine. I think the listeners like to hear, the things that go on behind the scenes and how we work things and how we discuss these things. It's important.
Yeah, that's true. Let's welcome them in. Maybe you could vote, listener. Yes or no? Do we stay on Twitter? Do we go on Blue Sky? Or do we just not bother with any social media at all?
Well, we'll stay on Instagram, I think.
Oh yeah, we've got to stay on Insta, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, next time, Stu, we are going to be talking to our old friends, Kathryn and Dan, from the Now That's What I Call Bullshit podcast. It's our tradition now. It's our Christmas tradition. We've done the number ones throughout the 90s, and we didn't want to say goodbye to the charts of the 90s around Christmas time, so we're going to be doing the number twos of the Christmas charts. So we're going to start with 1990 to 1994, and that promises to be the usual libelous, expletive-laden episode with Dan and Kathryn, but it's going to be a lot of fun, isn't it, Stu?
I really can't wait. I'm looking forward to this. And then, obviously, once we've done the number 2, so in 2 years' time, we'll do the Christmas number 3s, and so on and so forth, until we're looking at, like, the Christmas number 21s from 1990 to 1994. This will continue. We are not going to stop.
Yeah, plenty of legs left in this idea.
Oh, definitely.
This dead horse will be flogged until Kingdom Come. That doesn't make sense as a phrase, but there you go. It's the end of the episode. I've run out of steam. Well, that just about wraps us up, doesn't it, Stu? So until next time, it's goodbye from me. I'm just off to ask my manager at work if he will stump up for a leisure-wise Abdomex stomach exerciser for me to use in the office.
Thanks, Alex. Very much looking forward to our Christmas episode with Kathryn and Dan. It's goodbye from me. I'm just off to jump in my Mark III Cavalier with a beaded seat cover, head off to my squash game with my Jaguar leather luggage.
Goodbye.
Ta-ta.